Okay, I'm now at point 4 of Tepper Lecture 1, which is called Acting and Being. And this is something which we have seen and we will see more of. We saw it a fair amount in, well, really all the texts where, we see it clearly in the O'Brien, where basically he talks about, how you perform going to war and what you actually feel. So he feels that he shouldn't go in on the Rainy River, but then he decides that he must go because he's ashamed, and he says, I was a coward and I went to war, because he can't stand the idea, or he can't face the idea of saying no to his whole culture, despite the fact that he's given permission by this father figure that he meets. That's a very powerful story, and a very uncomfortable story, which is why it's so good. Anyway, in Tepper's book, it's important, given the play aspect of the text, to consider that gap between what seems to be and what is. And this is, again, very Greek, where Plato is entirely focused on the world of forms, which is the real, capital R, real, and the world of appearances, capital A, appearances. And for Plato, and for Plato particularly, this is sort of the revolution that Plato brings about, is that there is a search for meaning and for truth, means you have to stop engaging with appearance. So remember, yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I threw a sock, remember, and I was talking about the Stoics, and how the Stoics basically said, the senses are lying to us. We saw the sock hit the the wall, but actually we know it couldn't have mathematically, because it had to go half the distance and half the distance, half the distance, half the distance. Okay, so this is the same thing, right? Where basically there is what appears to be. The object hits the wall. Achilles can run fast, and and is going to win the race. And there's what is, which is based in mathematics, truth, capital T, truth. And this is very much also a discussion which is present in this text, where there is what appears to be, which is the play, and there is what is, which is revealed also by the play. Right, the play is also an allegory for the truth. Stavia is presented to us as a player in her own life, someone who is a double, essentially. She is Stavia the player and also Stavia the person who has doubts and has these terrible traumatic experiences. Later, when caught in Holy Land, she begins to have a discussion. The two selves have a discussion. And this is significant because this is sort of at moments like these in texts. It often happens in male texts. It often happens when men go out into the wilderness and they sort of go a little crazy. So they sort of have a discussion with themselves. You see this perhaps very clearly in Into the Wild, with Emil Hirsch, where essentially when he's dying at the end of the text, because he's starving to death, it's slow, he plays different roles. And so there's the version of him which is, the younger, less wise version of himself, and then there's the older, dying version of himself, which is more connected to nature and so on. Okay. And so Morgo tells Stavia significantly, and this is only on page 126, so we're not at all through even the center of the text. Half of what we do is performance, ritual, observances. Doing nothing with an appearance of calm may be more important than doing the right thing in a frantic manner. Learn to perform, Stavia. I have. Right. So here is this understanding that the performance may be what you have to do, and you have to you use appearance to get away with reality. You use capital A, appearance, to get away with the capital R, reality, which you're doing. The book too is a performance, and we are propelled as readers to figure out between what we at first see and what we must come to learn. And remember, this is what Septimius says. That we saw. And then we saw what we didn't see. We saw what was missing, and we figured out your narrative, right? And Tepper uses all of these forms to take on the problem of a culture that socializes both of its men and women, its children and their mothers, for sacrifice and for war, and that is the issue, right? That is the that's what she's trying to get at.